Alrighty then, let's just get into the video. I am the Aromantic Shipper, and this is my review of Attack on Titan Season 4, Part 1. So I want to give some background first. Attack on Titan is a series that is very near and dear to my heart, but it's one that I only got into recently. I only started watching it after Season 3 had already come out, and I was convinced to watch it through a little YouTuber named Giguk, who put out a video titled Attack on Titan is Incredible Now, which, convinced me to watch the series. And in my opinion, though, Attack on Titan, I think it was always pretty incredible. The season, the series had a pretty great start from the beginning, and, went through so many twists and turns throughout. But, Season 3, Part 2, oh my, that was just an experience all on its own. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't think I have ever been as invested in an anime as I have been watching Season 3, Part 2. I mean, it was so incredibly emotional and epic and satisfying in every way, and I was just, I was so incredibly excited for Season 4, especially as I'd already been kind of spoiled on the direction that the manga was going in, and I was really excited to, actually see it. And, it might be annoying to, have to wait for Season 4, Part 2 to come out, but to be honest, I'd rather that be the case than for it to be rushed, or for the last stretch of the manga to just be condensed into a movie. But, anyway, let's really get into what I thought of this season, this half season, I guess. I thought it was really good, to make a long story short. But, now let's actually get to that long story and some of my in-depth thoughts. I'm not going to be super scripted in this video, but I do have some notes with me to read from, so yeah, I guess let's get to it. Also, obviously, spoilers for Attack on Titan anime. You've been warned. Let me just check if this is still recording. Okay. So, first off, let's talk about the animation. So, the CGI was actually pretty good for the most part. But, a lot of people were complaining, oh my gosh, CGI, no, terrible, terrible, bad, bad, bad. But, I mean, it was actually used, I think, a lot better than it was for the Titans anyway, because if you actually look back at the previous seasons, like in Season 3, where they were using a bunch of CG for the Colossal Titan, that just, the Colossal Titan CG honestly just looked pretty shitty, if we're honestly, being honest with ourselves. And, the CGI could actually look, for the Titans, pretty good, and was utilized pretty well in this season. Like, for example, the Jaw Titan and the Card Titan, they were incredibly convincingly integrated with the 2D environment. I honestly had trouble telling that they were CGI some of the time. They did their designs really well in CGI. Now the Armored Titan and the Aaron's Titan, it was a little easier to see, and the Warhammer Titan 2, that they were CGI, because, the way they moved wasn't quite, the most convincing with what we've seen before, and, they were a little, more easy to tell that they were CGI, and it didn't look quite as good, but it was still, passable. Ironically, the, Colossal Titan, which was, used for CGI in the past 2 seasons, was actually 2D in this one, so I guess they were giving us a little treat, which was nice. I thought that was animated pretty well. The biggest problem I have with the season with the CGI Titans is the Beast Titan, because it was so obvious that it was CGI and not really blending with the rest, and I just didn't the Beast Titan just did not look very expressive in this season, which I sort of I sort of took issue with, because the Beast Titan has a really cool design, and it was kind of underwhelming to see it in CGI form in this season. But, I guess, it's not that the CGI was necessarily bad. Even the Beast Titan, it wasn't, terrible or anything. I don't know if I liked how much the CGI was used. It really seemed overused, in my opinion. There could have been some shots where, they actually looked pretty good, but then you could have, others, I think, could have been used for 2D animation, would have looked better. Overall, just not going on a whole entire 30-minute rant on the CGI. What about the actual animation itself? I mean, I thought it looked mostly good. I think it looked probably better in the first few episodes than it did for the rest of the season. One issue I had with it that I didn't notice at first, but then after looking back and like comparing it to earlier seasons, was that they used a blurry filter for like a lot of the scenes, even like including like scenes where they would be flashing back to something that happened in earlier seasons, where they would keep the animation the same, but they would just put a blurry filter effect over it. And like, I don't like, in some scenes it works, like when they're on like that battlefield in episode 1, because you know, like there's smoke everywhere, and like it should be kind of blurry in its images, but like, I don't know, a lot of it, I think it, one of the best things about the animation in that was done by Wit Studio in the earlier seasons was that it looked very defined, it looked very clean, and I don't know if I got the same sense. I don't know if like there's some legitimately really good looking scenes and layouts done by Mappa in this season. So it didn't look like, oh, it's, some people are saying, oh, it's total shit, it's just terrible. Like, no, there were some legitimately really good looking scenes in this season, but it just, I don't know, as a whole, I don't think I liked the way it was presented as much as when Wit did it for the first 2 seasons of Attack on Titan. The other thing I took issue with was that there were just some episodes, like, for example, episode 12 is one that's fresh in my memory, where the animation just kind of looked a little flat. It just seemed like, you know, there were in a bunch of scenes there were just a lot of non-moving images, which could get really boring and dull to look at. Like, the animation just wasn't very expressive in some parts. Like, what's interesting is in episode 2 they tried to use this type of animation, I think it's called rotoscope animation, where like they made it really overly expressive, which, you know, at some parts it looked a little weird, but I did kind of like that, you know, it was kind of this new style that they were trying, and it's just, but they didn't really try that throughout the rest of the season, and I don't know, I think I would have kind of liked if maybe they integrated that style, even if it would take a bit of getting used to make some scenes just look more expressive than they did, because, you know, overall the animation was relatively solid. I only have like some gripes about it. It's not quite as good as what Wit was doing, but I think it was still pretty good. So now let's get to the action scenes in the season. So like, overall, I think this season had some pretty good action. Like, in the first episode, where, you know, they were having that fight against this, you know, rival nation, Marley was, and that episode had some incredible action scenes, honestly. Like, and it was so creative in its action scenes as well. That's one thing I have to praise the season for, is that in 2 of the battles, like, they just have some incredibly interesting and creative uses of like both Titan powers and the omnidirectional mobility gear and the new modern technology, well, not really modern, but newer technology that has been introduced, you know, in the expansion of the world that we've gotten. Like, you know, the Beast Titan, or Zeke, I guess, just dropping all those Titans from the sky and them falling on the base, and then the Armored Titan going around and trying to destroy those armored trains, and, you know, all that stuff. The Beast Titan, you know, throwing those shells at all those ships. Like, that was amazing. Like, the first episode had some amazing action, obviously. Then when we got to the battle in the internment zone, that just had some incredible uses of action. Like, I think that there were some very good uses of the CGI in the action scenes, honestly. Like, for example, I think that it was relatively short, but like the fight scene that took place between Aaron's Titan and Galliard's Titan, the Jaw Titan, like, that was an incredible use of CGI to animate that scene. It just looked so incredibly awesome. And I don't know, I think that was really good use of the CGI, because I don't know how good that would do in 2D animation, but that was, like, honestly, probably one of, if not my most favorite, you know, action scene, Titan v Titan, that's been introduced in the series so far. Like, that was incredible. Really, like, there has been some, honestly, incredible action scenes in this half season, I will say. But then, you know, some of them have looked really good, but then some of them, you know, have been a little bit more underwhelming. Like, it hasn't been the most consistent in this season, I wouldn't say. Like, for example, the fight between the Warhammer Titan and the Scout Regiment. I think it started off pretty great with just like Eren obviously just attacking it immediately and punching the shit out of it, and then the Warhammer Titan recovering and like beating the shit out of Eren. But then as soon as the Scouts came in and like started fighting the Warhammer Titan, like I don't know, I just didn't find that section of the fight very interesting. And yeah, that's my alarm. I don't know why I thought I'd turn them all off. But anyway, yeah. So what I was saying, yeah, and in particular, I don't think that even though there have been some pretty creative uses of the CGI Titans, I don't think that Mappa Studio is as good as animating like the 3D vertical maneuver gear, the ODM gear, as Wit Studio, because Wit Studio, oh man, there was some mad Sakuga going on with like that vertical maneuver gear. Like they just had a way of that I don't think any other studio can quite match, where they were just animating those scenes with the omnidirectional mobility gear so incredibly, and I don't feel like there were any scenes that quite matched, like for example basically any of the Levi scenes in season 3 that took place. And and also the fight between Levi and the Beast Titan that took place in episode 14. I think that was it was passable, I guess, but I don't know. It didn't have the punch I wanted it to, and I felt like it was over a little too short. I don't know. I think that that fight in that episode was just a little bit underwhelming, and Levi and his action scenes were just not quite as well animated as they were in like the god tier animation of season 3 and any of the scenes. But overall, there were definitely some pretty great action scenes, and ones that I would definitely be wanting to return to, but some underwhelming ones as well. And let's talk about the music now. So there were some great new tracks in this season, and some that I will definitely be remembering in my head. And the opening, the OP, I don't know if I found the visuals too interesting, but like the song in the OP, it sounded a little weird to me at first, but overall I got used to it as it went on, and it just kept getting better and better in my head, so I really liked the OP. And but I was kind of annoyed in this season that there were like barely any more epic songs like there were in the first 3 seasons. I mean, in the first 3 seasons, what it did was, it did something sort of similar to RWBY, what RWBY does, the Rooster Teeth series, where, there are, in addition to just music, there are also a lot of, lyrical songs that are played, and much like RWBY, the lyrics can be somewhat difficult to understand sometimes, but, those were, absolute bangers that, whenever they came on, they were just, incredible, and you really get hyped for them. But yeah, there were barely any use of those for the soundtrack in this half season, and I don't know, I really took issue with that. I mean, for example, you don't even have to do new tracks, but you couldn't have at least have used the old UC Big Girl for Eren's first transformation, or Appleseed for Armin's transformation. I mean, that seems like a total missed opportunity, in my opinion. Giving those OSTs to those moments that before were used for Reiner and Bertolt, now being passed to Eren and Armin, that would have been so incredible, and would have made those transformations even more hype and amazing than they were. But the soundtrack, I think it's weaker than in all of the previous seasons, where it was just utterly immaculate. But, I mean, it was still fine. There were still some good new tracks. Alright, so now let's get to what I thought of the overall episodes of the season. So, episode 1, this episode was honestly fantastic. One of the best episodes of the whole season, in my opinion, and, the whole series, honestly, in my opinion. And it was such an amazing introduction to the season, and, it introduced a bunch of new characters very quickly, but it was a good introduction because you really got to know them and know what their place was. And it was a great exercise in world building too, because even though it was very action heavy, we still got to know a lot of information about the world, and what the situation was with the Eldians, and everything that they were doing for Marley and how they were reviewed. And, you know, this episode was just pretty much great in almost every way. I can't think of really any complaints about it. It was just, you know, it was utterly fantastic. Perfect introduction to the season. Alright, so now let's get to episodes 2 to 4. If I'm being honest, like, episodes 2 to 4 kind of felt a little rushed, like, you know, but, you know, I still thought that they had some good stuff. You know, episode 2 I actually really liked, because, you know, it just, like, after the action-heavy episode in the, you know, the first episode of the season, like, episode 2 was really, like, you know, a cool down where it just showed, like, all of the characters coming back from war, and it really showed this more, you know, human side to this enemy that we have been, you know, fighting this entire time, and how, you know, like, I really love the scene where, like, all of the Eldians were just, like, going back to their families, where Rhaina, you know, was going to meet back with his mom and dad, and, like, well, not his dad, but, but yeah, and, like, where Zeke was going back to his grandparents, like, that was a really genuinely, touching scene, and, of course, Gabby going back to her parents, and, like, it was just really cool to see this other side of the war that, like, we haven't seen this entire time, of these people just, you know, being people and having lives, and, you know, just wanting to be with their families and live a peaceful life, even though they were thrown into this war. It's just really nice, and I love that scene where, you know, Ryan is talking to his family, and, like, that scene where he's talking to them about, like, oh, the island devils, like, there was this girl who was eating a potato and she was so evil, and, like, that scene managed to be both hilarious and also, like, really uncomfortable with how much he has to just, like, lie about everything he saw on that island, otherwise he'll, you know, be rooted out as, like, disloyal to Marley and, like, taken off to the wall and, or, I guess, eaten, because, you know, they don't want to get rid of its Titan power. Episode 3, I thought was very interesting. I really liked how it expanded on Rhaina's backstory, and, like, the show is just very good at recontextualizing a lot of things that, you know, we thought we understood them before, but, of course, you know, we learn later that we don't understand them at all, because, like, turns out Rhaina and Bertolt and Annie's infiltration mission to the island of Paradis was never their mission at all, and basically they were just trying to cover for their mistake of letting Ymir eat Marcel, which was, I thought, a very interesting twist, which, you know, and I love that, like, you know, from the perspective of Rhaina, he was just, you know, wanting to do this not only for the admiration of someone like his father, who utterly hated him, but also, like, to become this hero who's going to save the world from the Island Devils. And I just loved episode 3, but I felt like we didn't get enough of that. Like, I felt like Rhaina's backstory and, like, as well as scenes with Annie and Bertolt, which was really nice to see because, you know, obviously Bertolt's dead and Annie has been trapped in Crystal for, like, 80 bajillion years. Who knows if she'll ever get out, but, I mean, she probably will. They don't have her in there for no reason, but, yeah, I mean, yeah, I liked episode 3, but I just felt like it, like I said, I feel like these episodes have been kind of rushed. Episode 4, in my opinion, I don't know, I just didn't enjoy it a ton. I thought it was still interesting, and how we got to meet Willie Tybur, but I feel like his introduction was kind of rushed, and we were just, like, thrown into him, and how, you know, oh, he's secretly, like, the actual puppet leader of Marley, which was just kind of a very strange plot point to me that I didn't really understand it too well. But episode 4, I don't know, I just there were a lot of scenes I liked, like, for example, the scene where, you know, the warrior kids were like, oh, Reiner Senpai, please pay for all this delicious food, and it's just, like, really cute scenes like that, but it just, again, it did feel a little rushed, and I don't know, I didn't find it quite as interesting as some other episodes in the season. I just felt its presentation to be a little dull. Then we get to episode 5, which undoubtedly, Declaration of War, one of the best episodes in the entire series. It is, and the funniest thing is, it's nothing but talking except for the transformation at the end. Like, it's so incredibly great that, like, this series, which, was built upon a foundation of, constant thrills, action, like, reveals, that this episode, which can just be nothing but dialogue throughout the entire thing, can be so incredibly tension-filled and so just kept me on the edge of my seat the entire time. I was invested, like, oh my gosh. And the music, too. The music in this episode was very well done. I thought the way it constantly built and built to the climax of the episode was really interesting. Willie's speech, of course, legendary. And, of course, the best part of this episode was just, like, Eren and Reina's confrontation, which, after all these years, them finally meeting again, seeing how much Eren has changed from his former self, like, being this, person who, he is in this position of power now, where, like, he just came in saying, hey, I've cut my hand. If you don't sit down and talk to me, I'm going to transform and, like, blow up this building and kill all the civilians in it. That was just crazy. Like, seriously, that was a hell of an official introduction, I guess, for Eren. And, like, Reina was also just incredibly fantastic in this episode. His breakdown in this episode's not entirely dissimilar to Eren's breakdown in, in Season 3, where Reina was just saying, I've done too much, like, I'm too guilty, just please kill me. Like, that was heartbreaking. And, like, Falco there, throughout the rest of it, like, that was also a very good addition. Just everything about this episode was, like, so incredibly fantastic. He was just utterly legendary, and a true marker of this series that will definitely go down in history as one of the most iconic moments, with Eren transforming at the end and, going to eat Willie Tybur. That was just, Eren woke up and he chose violence. Just amazing. And then, let's talk about episodes 6 to 7. These episodes would definitely have to be the most action-packed parts of the half season. With Eren and the crew going against Marley, fighting the Warhammer Titan and the Beast Titan and the Jaw Titan and the and the Cart Titan. Which these episodes were pretty good. Like I said before, I don't know if half of the Warhammer Titan fight was good when it was against Eren, but I don't know. I found the second half of the fight to be a little dull. But then when episode 7 kicks in and just, like, it goes fucking crazy with the Beast Titan and all the other Titans arriving and Armin's Titan arriving, that episode was fan-fucking-tastic. Like, I absolutely love that episode. Seriously, it was probably my favorite episode of the whole half season, in my opinion, even better than Declaration of War, yes, because it just went fucking crazy. Like, I mean, like, and that episode was just, like, a completely brutal beatdown of, like, Marley, where it looks like, oh, Marley, of course it has the upper hand, it has all those more Titans, but then everything just goes to shit. Like, the Beast Titan gets taken down, and then Armin transforms and blows up the entire Marleyan fleet. That was crazy. And Hanji and Onyonkopon arriving in the airship to pick everyone up, and, like, then just Eren being able to transform again like a beast, and the the Cart Titan and the people riding on it with the machine gunners, them getting utterly demolished. Like, this episode was honestly brutal. Like, and it was so interesting because, like, this is the thing we've been seeing, like, happen to the protagonist the entire time. Like, them just getting utterly brutal beatdowns. Like, episode 5 in season 1, Perfect Game, an episode in season 3. Like, just constantly the main characters, the protagonists of this series, just getting beaten down and beaten down and beaten down, and just, like, taking so many fucking L's. And now it's just, like, the villains of this series are taking the absolute biggest L ever. I mean, like, you could say in the end of season 3, like, the antagonists, they sort of got defeated, but also sort of ended in a draw. But in this time, no, this was an absolute fucking slaughter. Like, all the Survey Corps members just coming in and, like, shooting everyone from the windows, shooting their thunder spears, grenades everywhere. It was just so fucking crazy. There was just the attack on Marley. I think it could have been maybe an episode longer. I think it just went by a little too fast in my opinion, but it was still just so incredibly amazing from beginning to end. But anyway, yeah. So episodes 8 to 10, these episodes are definitely what I would describe as cooldown periods, where, you know, the plot is kind of slowing down, getting time to breathe after the massive battle that happened on the previous 2 episodes. You know, for episode 8, this is when the episodes started covering less manga content per episode, meaning it went at a slower pace, and I think I liked that they, you know, did slow it down, because it just, before, it did feel like we were going through a lot of stuff just, like, really fast, and at this point it was slowing down. I think it worked very well, especially for episode 8, which was just, like, it really gave the characters a lot of a time to breathe, and some really great scenes, like, you know, where Connie on the airship is just talking about how, you know, like, that John and Sasha will always be special to him, and of course, like, Gabby's scene with Falco, which was great, and then, of course, you know, the death of Sasha, which was just really heartbreaking, and it really was great to devote more time to it rather than just rushing through it and having all the characters' reactions. So I really liked episode 8. The episodes 9 and 10 were mostly focused on flashbacks, and, you know, like, it was good to see, you know, what the characters have been up to in the midst of the 4-year time skip, where we haven't seen them and we've been just focusing on the characters in Marley, and it was interesting to see what they were up to. Now, I don't know if these episodes were, like, I wouldn't say these episodes were really stand out, like episodes 9 and 10, but they were still interesting. You know, there were still some pretty great scenes in them. Like, for example, in episode 10, I really like that scene where Eren was, like, talking to, you know, in the flashback, of course, talking to his friends while they were on the train, like, you know, how he didn't want them to inherit his Titan when his time would be up, because he wanted them all to live long lives. And that was just really adorable scene, and, like, you know, scenes like that, and, like, just little moments where Levi is complaining about how everyone got taller than him. Just scenes like that are very endearing, and I really like them. And, you know, seeing how more optimistic all the characters used to be before where we are now, and seeing how much Eren has changed, it was just it was really interesting, and I really liked it. But overall, yeah. So episodes 11 to 12, these episodes are certainly interesting. I actually really like the content with Gabby and Falco, you know, seeing them interact with the Browse family. That was something I did not expect, you know, those characters going in that direction, seeing that family. I honestly didn't think that, like, we'd honestly ever see that girl that Sasha saved, or her father again. Like, you know, I thought that when I first watched episode 2 of season 2, I honestly thought that was kind of a bit fillery. Like, you know, maybe it was interesting to see Sasha get more focus, but you know, as a character, but you probably could have skipped it in the season. But now, like, you know, you see how much that that actually connects to you know, the story, and, like, you know, because that's really the thing with Attack on Titan. Like, it's so good at, like, taking plot threads that you thought, oh, well, this was not really necessary, it wasn't really that important, but then going back, like, even, you know, like, tons of episodes later, like maybe 50 episodes later, and then just saying, oh, wait, this actually was important, and, like, oh, that's really cool. And, you know, so I really appreciated that, and I really liked you know, Gabby's conversation with the girl that Sasha saved, and, you know, how, you know, they were basically, she was trying to come to the realization of, you know, that these people weren't, like, they weren't really devils necessarily that, like, deserved all this horrible suffering. And, you know, episode 12, I wasn't the hugest fan of it. Like I said before, I thought its presentation was kind of flat in terms of the animation. I think, you know, it has some interesting things, like Eren's escape and his friends' reactions to his betrayal, which honestly I felt like was, like, you know, a little rushed. Like, you couldn't have even had, you know, the scene of Eren escaping. Like, you just, you know, it's just, they announce Eren escaped, and then he's out, and, like, I I don't know. I think that was. I think they should have shown Eren escaping. That could have been a really interesting, cool scene. But whatever. And then honestly, the real MVP of episode 12 was definitely Pixis. General Pixis with him. That was honestly a really surprising moment where he said, Eren is fighting against us. So let's just not fight against him. Let's just surrender. Like we're basically fighting an enemy outside of our gates. Like let's not get into a war within our walls. Like let's just do what we can to see if we can work this out, which again, Pixis being calm-minded was really great. Him really being one step ahead of everyone in this case. Like Erwin, he had some Commander Erwin, he had some really great speeches, and like he was obviously very intelligent, but honestly, like Pixis's like mind for strategy and ability to think things through, I think might be even greater and more admirable than Erwin's, very possibly. Like, but he was just, someone that I really enjoyed a lot, especially in episode 12. Then, we get to, episodes 13 and 14. I actually loved, episode 13, even though, it was mostly talking and dialogue again, where, like, the scene where, Niccolo is threatening to kill Falco and, like, saying how, you care about this kid, well, you know what, I used to care about someone too, and, like, that was just incredibly heartbreaking and emotional scene. Like, I loved everything about that. It was just, that was, such a great scene, and, like, Sasha's father, his, like, whole spiel about how, Sasha, she died because she went out to go to a foreign country to shoot people, and she got shot, and, like, that was just, like, that was incredibly heartbreaking, and, seeing him, even after, like, his daughter being killed by this, like, honestly psychopathic child who was just, like, causing so much destruction, like, and him just being even forgiving of her and trying to, like, saying, we have to keep the children out of this war, and, like, Sasha's dad is, like, just the best human being ever, and of course, like, the girl that Sasha saved, I can't remember her name, which is concerning because her name is in the title of one of my videos, but whatever, her, like, trying to even kill Gabby, and then, like, just sobbing afterwards after Mikasa stops her, and, like, that was just, that episode was a punch in the feels for sure. And then we have episode 14, which half of it was just Eren laying the fucking smackdown on, like, on Armin and Mikasa, like, verbally and physically. Like, seriously, I thought, after episode 13 ended, like, I thought that Eren was going to, like, try to explain his plan to Armin and Mikasa and, like, what he was trying to do. But no, he barely explained shit, and then just went to giving them the most savage roast of all time, like saying, oh, you're both slaves, like, you're being controlled, and, like, fuck you, I hate you, Mikasa. Like, what the fuck was that? Like, that's just, I think, that was a very, I don't know how I feel, I still don't know how I feel about that scene. Like, I think there's probably, as there always is with Attack on Titan, there's probably more to it than what we're actually seeing, and I don't think that Eren was just being cruel to them to the sake of being cruel, and he probably has some type of purpose, perhaps to, like, because he doesn't want them to follow them, and he wants to keep them safe and out of it. But, like, I don't fucking know, but, like, it was still just, it was an interesting scene, but I don't know, I don't know if I know the full impact of it right now, but anyway. But yeah, the second half of episode 14, the fight between the ultimate rematch between the Beast Titan and Levi, which was yet another stomp. And again, I said before, I don't know if I liked the fight a ton, but I really did like that, like, Captain Levi was, he was forced to slaughter his comrades who had been transformed into Titans. Sneaky move by Zeke, of course, who had used the spinal fluids to basically infiltrate their entire military, which was a very intelligent move. And I like that he was, forced to capture Zeke. He was forced to, kill his comrades in Titan form, even though they probably could have been transformed back by the coordinate power. That was just, I really liked if they would have shown Levi, doing some killing of his comrades, because it's another thing where it happened off screen. just like Eren's prison break, and I really wish they would have just actually shown that, because it could have been really cool, but whatever. And then episode 15, I loved episode 15. It was just such a great backstory for Zeke that, like, explained a lot of things that I didn't quite understand before. Like, this episode, you know, I was kind of confused, like, what Zeke was actually trying to do before, and, like, you know, obviously, you know, with Attack on Titan, there's a lot of mystery, so you're not supposed to understand everything, but I felt like, you know, if he was trying to get the Eldians on Paradis to actually trust him and, like, go through with his plan, there should have been a better explanation on what his plan actually was, and, like, why he, of course, you know, obviously he wouldn't reveal what his actual plan was, but, like, you know, I don't know, I'm getting sidetracked. I felt like, yeah, this episode was just, it did a very great job of explaining, you know, who Zeke was, what he was really trying to do, what his backstory was, and it really made you feel for the guy, and take a character who, for most of the series, had seemed pretty much just an irredeemable piece of shit, just, like, murdering people for fun. And, you know, I just really liked this episode a lot. Like, you know, it's again, this whole thing of, like, this series is just so good at, you know, recontextualizing stuff that you thought you understood before, but then, of course, you realize you don't understand jack shit, and there were, like, so much stuff regarding Zeke's backstory that, you know, Grisha Yeager, his backstory that was revealed in Season 3, we didn't get the whole story, we didn't see it from Zeke's perspective and everything that went on. And again, a really great twist, just like in the Reiner episode, where, you know, Zeke didn't just betray his parents because, oh, he was being a dick, and, like, because, you know, he was trying to prove his loyalty to Marley. No, he actually, like, he betrayed his parents because they were already going to be found out by Marleyan public security, and, you know, basically, if he was convinced by the person, you know, the old holder of the Beast Titan, who was kind of more of like a father figure to him, you know, if there's no reason for you to get fed to the turned into a Titan as well, like, you know, it's your parents who are doing this, and they're the ones who are going to get caught, so, you know, in order to not be turned into a Titan, you need to do this. And, you know, like, that was a really great twist, and I really liked it. Anyway, so episode 16, you know, some people have said that, like, not really much happened in this episode, but honestly, I really liked episode 16, in my opinion. Like, it just, I think it had a very good use, much like episode 5, Declaration of War. The finale of this half season, it had a very good use of music, where it just used to build and build and build to the eventual, you know, climax of the episode, which, of course, Eren's transformation, and, you know, Marley coming in to attack, and, like, also, like, Pieck just coming in and slitting that guy's throat and, like, pointing a gun at Eren. That was probably the most badass introduction scene I've ever seen in this show. Like, oh my gosh, that was just, oh, Pieck-sama, step on me, like, oh my gosh, well, no, but for real, I really like this episode. You know, I think it just had a very good, you know, I just liked it. It was very good. I get that, like, it probably wasn't the best to end the half season on, but I still think it was very good. Like, just seeing everything come to a head and finally coming to building up to Marley's final attack on Paradis, and it just did a very solid job of building tension. Like, you could say that, like, nothing happened in the Declaration of War episode, and that was just all dialogue, and this was mostly just a lot of talking and moving around as well, but, like, it was just it was incredibly tension-filled, and it was a great build-up to what was happening. But the problem I had with it, of course, was that, you know, let's talk about the cliffhanger of this season. I don't really like it. Like, I don't like it. So, like, I think with the Declaration of War episode, where, you know, you could say, like, not a ton really necessarily happened in that episode too, and it was all just build up. But the problem is with that, you know, with that episode, the Declaration of War, it was building up to something that we were going to, you know, see happen in the next episode, where, of course, the attack on the Eldian Internment Zone would finally begin, what had been building up for a while. And with this, though, it's like, you know, the attack on Paradis, you know, the counterattack by the Marleyan forces, has been building up for quite some time now. And then, you know, I think that episode 16 did a very good job just building the tension of finally, you know, getting to it and trying to figure out, you know, what's the deal? Is Pieck alone? Are there others? Where are they? Like, what's going to happen? And then, like, of course, Rhaina and everyone else coming in at the last moment. And it was a great cliffhanger, but, like, you know, it just, I take issue with it because, you know, now we have to wait on that cliffhanger for, you know, months and months and months. And I don't feel like that was a good place to end off the season. Like, why would you just end off the season at that moment? Like, at least when there have been hiatuses in previous times in Attack on Titan, has been relatively satisfying. Like, for example, at the end of season 3, part 1, you know, it ended with them riding off into the sunset to go to, you know, to go to their final attack, you know, to take back Shiganshina from the Titans. And, you know, it was sort of a cliffhanger, but, like, it ended off with, you know, it didn't end off with, like, the Beast Titan and everyone showing up to, like it ended with the first episode of you know, season 3 part 2. It didn't end there because, you know, it wanted to give some sort of finality to end the half season off of, and I just don't like. This episode literally ended in the middle of an action scene, and it's just like, just why? Like, I don't. And this is a problem I have. I think that I have with, like, I think that I have with this series a lot, which is that this, you know, Attack on Titan, the anime anyway, you know, it's obviously separate from the manga. It's an adaptation of it, but, you know, the Attack on Titan, like, it just really likes to, you know, it likes to start things off with the seasons very action-packed and then end them very action-packed. Like, for example, you know, in season 3, part 1, one issue I took with it was that just, you know, like, it restructured a lot of scenes and plot points from the manga to basically shorten it and condense it, and to make it where, you know, that the first episode of the season, it left off on a really big cliffhanger, when in reality, if it was following the manga closer, then, you know, it should have, the first episode of season 3 wouldn't have ended off with a major cliffhanger, and we wouldn't have gotten the start of an action scene. And then, of course, rather than ending season 3 part 1 with, you know, the backstory for Keith Chavez, which I thought would have probably been the best place to end that half season off of, they ended it with, you know, them going out to, which was really the introduction for the next arc, which was going out to Shiganshina. And then, like, with this season, of course, what they did is, they started it with a really action-packed episode, and then they ended it with, like, a cliffhanger about an action-packed, and, like, I don't understand, because, like, I feel like, you know, what this series does is it tries to make its premieres and its finales of its seasons and half seasons, like, super action packed. And I feel like there could have been better ways in season 3 and in season and now in season 4 to end the half seasons off of, like, and I don't know, it did not have to be here that they just ended this half season off of with, you know, Rhaina staring down Eren. It just, like, felt like a very cheap gimmick to get people to, you know, to get them to tune into the season premiere of the second half of the season. So I just did not like the cliffhanger and how it ended, and I just was not a fan of it. Apologies, had to get some water. Throat is quite parched from talking so much. But, you know, I'm doing this in one take, baby. One take. Anyway, let us let us get into the a discussion about the overall plot of this season. And no, I ain't talking about them anime titties. Let me just check if this is still recording. Anyway, so yeah, the story of Attack on Titan is very interesting because, like, with a lot of stories, you set up where the story is going from the beginning, and then, like, of course, there are changes that take place over the course of the series, but if it's a story-based thing, then it relatively sticks to the same type of story. Like, even something that, changes drastically from its beginning to its eventual continuation. Like, for example, something like Dragon Ball, like where it is now, like with people fighting over the fate of the entire universe, is completely unrecognizable to when the series first started off with like a little kid and this girl going around the world trying to find these mystical orbs, like stuff like that. But like even with that series, like there's what Attack on Titan is very interesting at is just like with the amount of time it constantly reinvents itself while also keeping the story very consistent. It has a very sharply crafted world, but the story also goes through like constant developments over the course of its run and just changes like so much. Like if you look at the start of the season where it's this this action-packed thrill ride fight of humanity against these massive titans, and then you go to like the in season 3 where you see it's this fight against the government itself, where they're trying to like overthrow the corrupt government, and now it's like this geopolitical conflict between where the titans, the titans aren't even really a main factor anymore, since the ones outside of the wall had all been pretty much wiped out. And now they're trying to, and now the citizens of Eldia have completely having their place in the world. Like they have to completely reconsider it and try to find out what they're going to do. And a lot of people, with the story changing so much, there are going to be people who prefer different sections of the story more than others. And there are those who absolutely love the geopolitical conflict route this series has gone to, while there are a lot of people who much prefer when the series was just more action-heavy and focused on humanity fighting titans. And, I think, I don't know, the thing about me is I enjoy, different types of stories. And I think the fact that Attack on Titan can constantly, have new developments and keep its story very fresh and constantly do different things and actually have its world and story develop is very good and interesting. And I did like a lot of the plot points that were introduced in this season. I don't know if sorry. I did like the direction that the story was going in when it started off in the season. As I said before, I was sort of spoiled about the direction it was going in with, them attacking Marley and, and all that stuff. And I really liked that, and, seeing how, seeing all that stuff in the internment zone, all that stuff was a very interesting direction for the story to take. I don't quite know if I found the plot point about, parody kind of, because how I thought it was going to go was, that it would just focus on the citizens of Parody, trying to do what they can to fight a war against basically the rest of the world. But then, in the first half of the season is kind of focused on that and on the rest of the world, and, how, that the protagonist can be able to fight back against that. But the latter half of the season, a lot of it was spent with yet another instance of the characters trying to, depose the government. So we're basically doing this plotline again, and I think it's interesting and probably realistic to where this this nation, this Eldia, it's relatively they even talked about it in season 3 with humanity is going down a far more uncertain path, and now that we've deposed the royal government, which stood for 100 years, the situation has become more unstable. And it's good to see that it's actually the story's actually following through with that, with yet another move against the government to try to depose the authorities. But I don't know, because we've already seen the story go in that direction before, I don't know if I found it totally totally as interesting, and like, you know, because I praised, you know, Attack on Titan for doing newer and different things constantly, but it just feels like somewhat of a retread of you know, the Royal Government arc that we've already seen before. So like, and you know, I don't know, I feel like I would have liked it if the story took a greater direction where it showed us more of like the outside world and, you know, Marley and the other nations as well, of course, which we didn't get a ton of focus on, which I would have probably preferred that more, which even though I do still find the stuff happening within the walls interesting, like we have spent like entire 3 seasons on them in this last season, and like, I don't know, I don't feel like the what stuff we did get of, like, you know, the Eldian Internment Zone, Marley, and all the other nations was very interesting, and I wish we got more of that. And I wish we would have focused more on the actual war than, like, the internal conflicts, because I just don't know if I found it that interesting, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, like, I still did find the story very interesting. It was still very engaging, you know, obviously. And of course, the twist of Zeke, you know, being coming over to the side of you know, Zeke coming over to the side of our protagonist was a very interesting twist, and you know, I wasn't sure how I felt about it at first, but you know, in the end, after actually seeing what Zeke's backstory was and what resulted from it, I think it was probably a good writing direction to go in with his character. Anyway, So, disregarding the plot of the series, let's talk about some characters. First of all, Historia. My boo has not been a main character for quite some time, has she? I mean, seriously, I loved Historia in Season 3, or, you know, Season 3, Part 1, anyway. Like, she was, honestly, like, you know, it's so weird that, like, in Season 1, Historia was just, like, this basically nothing character who almost got no screen time whatsoever, and then in like Season 2, turns out she was like the key to everything. And of course, like when I first heard that, like I was incredibly confused, like how is this character who's got like 2 minutes of screen time before been like the most important character ever. And like but Season 3 Part 1 was honestly like really incredible, and I really love what it did for her character, and she took like main focus on that one. She was arguably the star of that like whole season, even more so than Eren was, and she just had so many incredible developments. I thought her character was just so incredibly strong and entertaining and really likable, and she honestly became my favorite character in that season, before, of course, being deposed by the great Erwin Smith and his epic suicide charge in the second half of that season. Erwin will always be MVP. But yeah, I really loved Historia in Season 3, particularly the first part of Season 3, and I really don't like that she's sort of become this, again, basically side character, where, you know, she's basically been relegated to just being pregnant and not hardly doing anything and hardly having any lines of dialogue, and I don't like that, because she was like my favorite character ever, and she still is, just on the merits of how strong her character was in her character was in Season 3 Part 1, and I hope they do a lot more with her in the second half of this final season. I don't know what they can do because of, you know, her being pregnant and all, and not being able to do all that much, but I just, Historia, oh my gosh, she was so, I just loved her character so much, and I just wish they would do more with her. Please, 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 I love her story so much. But seriously, anyway, so that's one problem I have. So let's talk about Eren's character. He is a character that has taken my feelings on him throughout the series on a roller coaster over the course of the show's run. I mean, I'm not very sure how to feel about him at the moment. He's certainly, you know, like, when he first appeared in Season 1, I honestly didn't really like him in Season 1, and I didn't really like him in Season 2 either. Season 3 was where I feel like Eren was really taken to some major new developments, where he, you know, his confidence had really been shaken after the death of Hannes, where, you know, he was becoming more depressed and more unsure of himself, and having much lower self-worth about him being able to do anything, because, you know, he didn't really feel like he was special in any kind of way. And I really liked the development that he was given in Season 3, and of course in Season 3 Part 2, where, you know, he recognized his weaknesses, but still was able to build himself back up and become stronger. So I honestly really took a liking to Eren in Season 3, and now in Season 4, Eren has certainly changed a lot, and, you know, he's controversial character, to say the least. I mean, he certainly does Eren does some very unlikable and villainous things in this season, and not just like, not just like, him, because, obviously Eren has done some pretty fucked up things before, like, stabbing those two guys to death when he was like 9 years old. Eren has obviously always been fucked up in the head. But, it's just like, he comes off as very cruel a lot of the time in this season, even though he can honestly be sort of understanding sometimes. Like, when he was talking to Reiner, he was saying, I get it, I know what your motivations are, I know why you did it, and, but, like, I don't know, I just, like, he's become very, unlikable in a lot of ways as a character, and I don't know how I feel about it, like, but, because, here's the thing, I do like the direction that he's going in, because it does make sense. Eren this entire time has been, I'm gonna kill all the Titans, and just, exterminate them and all. And, that's been his mantra for, like, the first 3 seasons of the show. And now he realizes that, Eren has always been this very black and white mentality of, I'm gonna kill all my enemies so that we can be free. And now we just realize that, his enemies aren't the Titans. His enemies are the entire world. So, he is obviously going to trying to take a stand against the entire world and just, like, try to destroy his enemies. So his motivations honestly haven't changed in that regard. So it makes sense. It's a very clever thing to, like, take this stance of Eren that should have been relatively uncontroversial before, of, I'm going to wipe out these disastrous beasts that are killing us, to where, I'm going to wipe out these disastrous humans who are trying to kill us. It's a very interesting direction to take his character. The problem I have with it is just, like, he seems less human than he was before. Like, Eren, say what you will about Eren, like, even in Season 1, Eren has always been very human and very flawed and very emotional. And in that way, like, seeing his flaws and his weaknesses has always been a way to kind of relate to the character and see him as, someone to root for, because he's always been this sort of underdog. But the problem I have with this season, him in the season, is that, like, Eren is just so competent and so good at, like, everything he does. He's, like, perfect under pressure. He's, like, perfectly able to utilize his Titan form and his transformation before. Like, he's calm in, like, every single situation. Like, this is, I don't know, it's not the same Eren that we have seen in the past 3 seasons, and, obviously he should change over time, but I don't know, I feel like Eren is just kind of too perfect and too ruthless for a character that, for the first 3 seasons of the show, like, it just spent a lot of time, going over his flaws and, like, how flawed he was and how imperfect he was. Now we just see him in this season, how, he's just, like, so incredibly, calm and composed all the time, and, like, able to know exactly what to do and formulate the best plans. Like, it doesn't seem like Eren, in my opinion. Like, it was fine to go with him in this direction of, because it makes sense of him just being this person who still wanted to destroy all his enemies and, like, going against them. And first of all, I don't buy that Eren is on board with Zeke's plan for a fucking second. Like, Eren is not gonna try to, make it so that, everyone can't have children. There's no way he's gonna fucking do that. Like, his whole mantra this entire time has been, we're all special from the moment we were born. He is gonna fucking destroy his enemies. He's gonna use his coordinate power, because he has control of it, not Zeke, and he's gonna, like, start the rumbling and destroy everyone. That's confirmed going to happen. Like, that's definitely what's going to happen. I am counting on it. But, I don't have a problem with that necessarily. It's just, I have a problem with the fact that, like, he seems too perfect and too competent in this season, which is just, I don't know, it seems out of character for him, and if they're not necessarily developed enough. But that would probably be my trouble with Eren in the season. Anyway, let's talk about Mikasa. Honestly, I've always seen Mikasa as an extremely overrated character for, quite a while now. I liked her in the first half of Season 1, but ever since then, her character has just been, like, this entire time, like, it's just Eren. Like, Mikasa is obviously, like, I know a lot of people, like, really love Mikasa, like, oh, Mikasa is so awesome, she's so badass, like, and, yeah, like, Mikasa is cool, she is very competent, she is a very good fighter, but, like, her entire character, throughout this entire thing has just been, like, Eren, I need to protect Eren. Like, it's just, it really honestly got on my nerves, where you have this female character who obviously is so incredibly badass and so incredibly competent, and you're just like reducing her entire motivation down to, there's this boy she has a crush on who obviously does not reciprocate her feelings for her, and like I just didn't find her very interesting because that was just pretty much almost her entire motivation. She just kind of became, this character her entire character was just basically focused on, her being devoted to this male character, and I just didn't find that very interesting. Obviously, she had motivations outside of that too, but that just seemed like her primary thing. And in this season, it is cool that they're finally addressing the fact that like she's so fucking obsessed with Eren all the time, and like Eren given that explanation about how she basically the reason for that was because she is an Ackerman, and like how she was primed to like cling to Eren because she was basically tricked by her Ackerman blood into seeing him as a target to protect, and that's very interesting explanation. And I feel like it is cool how they're like actually giving an explanation for why Mikasa acts the way she does, because it sort of has been always strange to me that she was so fucking obsessed with Eren, even though obviously Eren did save her and everything, but after like just being so fucking obsessed with Eren all the time. That's a very interesting explanation. I don't know if I fully buy it, because like why would the same not also apply to Levi? Levi seems to be relatively independent. I don't know, but like I do like that they're addressing with that, and perhaps, in the second half of the season, Mikasa will finally grow to, like, not be so dependent on protecting Eren anymore, and she will actually, have her own character arc outside of him. So I hope that's what will happen, but, like, overall, again, Mikasa, like, apart from, like, the first half of Season 1, she's never really been one of my favorite characters, so, whatever. Let's talk about Armin. I think when it comes to Armin, like, Armin has always, like, been one of my favorite characters of this series. Like, him just, I really like him because he just has so many weaknesses. Like, he's not particularly strong. Like, he's, in a lot of ways, he's just, like, very fearful and constantly nervous all the time. And, like, but he also is just incredibly intelligent, and, like, he's been so incredibly useful to the characters, to where he's been coming up with a lot of really great plans, and he has just had some incredibly great moments, like for example when he convinced that epic moment in Season 1 where he convinced the soldiers to spare Eren and use his Titan ability to retake the wall. And then his creepy as fuck moment where he was like talking about Annie being tortured to Bertolt. Like, that was just savage. And like, but I think I don't know, I just didn't find Armin really totally interesting in this season, at least as interesting as I've seen him in earlier seasons, because like, I think honestly, like, his character probably peaked with his self-sacrifice moment in Season 3. Like, that moment just will be one of my all-time favorites in the whole series. That just was so incredibly emotional, and I honestly did get teary-eyed at that scene where Armin was sacrificing himself. And of course, they did choose to bring him back by using the Titan Serum to have him steal Bertolt's power, and like, he did have one really, 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 really cool moment in this season where he just transformed and blew up the entire Marleyan fleet, so that was amazing. But honestly, throughout the rest of this season, like, I didn't find him that interesting. Like, he didn't come up with any genius strategies. He didn't really have that much of an impact on the plot. He didn't ever use his Titan ability again. Like, he confronted Eren and got his ass fucking whooped, and then he just got in prison. He didn't really do all that much. I'm just saying, like, and on top of that, his character, I don't know if it was really as interesting as it was in later seasons. Like, he has this weird moment where, he is, like, he's going to Annie's crystal, and it seems like he kind of has feelings for her, almost, even though that was never really portrayed in the earlier seasons. I guess they give him an explanation, much like with Mikasa, how, part of Bertolt has become in him, because, he gains power from him and stuff, and, but, like, I don't know, and, his entire character throughout this season has just been, Armin is the one who's been quoted as saying, if you can't sacrifice, if you aren't prepared to give up your humanity, it's not worth holding on to. And yet in this season, he's just all talking about like, oh, peace, 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 I want peace, and we don't have to fight and all that stuff, and like it's not really consistent with what his actions have been in in earlier seasons, where he's been he's obviously been relatively kind-hearted, even though he's fucked up in some ways, because all the characters in this series are fucked up, but yeah, but he has understood that it's necessary to try to fight back and stuff. And in this season, he was just constantly talking about how peace, not make love, not war, and just like I don't know. I didn't find his character. Perhaps they'll do more interesting stuff with him in the latter half of this season. I'm expecting they will, obviously, but in this season, this half of the season I just didn't find him that interesting. Now let's talk about Reiner. He honestly became one of my favorite characters this season. Like, I already liked Reiner before. I just found him an incredibly interesting character, with the split personality disorder and everything. And, but, like, this season really did a lot of great stuff for Reiner as a character. Like, he just went, like, really high up on my character tier list. Like, seeing things from his perspective and how, in his own way, he was kind of the protagonist of the series, coming from his perspective, and how, he had this dream. He was like Eren. He wanted to change things. He wanted to become a hero and, like, eliminate the Titans, just like Eren did, although obviously in a different sort of way. And, like, he was just this person who had, like, all these hopes and dreams and enthusiasm, whereas a lot of the world was more jaded. And, like, but over time, him seeing all the things, like, he had to do, and, like, how things just weren't at all, like, the way he thought they were, and like it's a great parallel to Eren and his journey throughout the series. Obviously, intentionally, is trying to draw parallels between the two of them. Like, Eren, for fuck's sake, Eren even just says outright, Reiner, we're the same. Like, perhaps a bit on the nose, but I just really like seeing the parallels between him and Eren. And even beyond that, Reiner is just a character who can really stand on his own, in his own right. And I actually found him, like, he's kind of a son of a bitch who did, like, a lot of horrible things throughout the series. Like, him sacrificing Marco was just like, oh gosh, that scene was just brutal to watch, with him just being so incredibly cruel like that. But in this season, he honestly became incredibly really likable, and even someone to root for, which is very strange. Like, at the end of episode 7, where he just, like, transforms, like, that honestly, it was positioned as if, like, Reiner was actually the good guy, like, trying to heroically stop Eren from, like, brutalizing Galliard. Like, that was honestly a really great scene, where he was, like, because in that scene, he was objectively, like, the hero. He was protecting Falco, and he was trying to save his friend against, Eren and the scouts. Like, that was... And it's so interesting to see Reiner in such a different light, and his backstory and everything that was revealed. That was great, and he's become such an interesting, engaging character. For, again, someone that was just, like, not even really that big of a character, and when he was introduced in season 1, like, he didn't have that much screen time. But yeah, he's honestly become one of my favorite characters. I just love him so much, and this series did a lot of great things for him. Anyway, so Zeke Yeager is, like, another character who's just become one of my favorite characters in this season, and but unlike Reiner, who I had liked for a while in seasons 2 and 3, like, Zeke Yeager, like, he was just like the big bad monkey titan, throwing rocks at people, like, getting pleasure out of it, like some sick sadist. Like, he was not a particularly complex villain in season 2 and season 3. Like, he was just this, like, otherworldly seeming threat who could, like, do all these crazy things, like speak and command the Titans, and all this crazy shit. Like, he was a very interesting threat, but he was not really a very interesting villain or character. And this season, honestly, again, did wonders for him. Like, it was so interesting to see him, how he actually had different motives than what had been set up, and, like, he was actually he betrayed Marley and went on the side of Paradis, but then it turned out he had actually more ulterior motives, and he had this weird kooky plan to his euthanasia plan. Well, I don't know if that's the right word, but yeah, sterilization plan, I guess, is a better word, to make all the Eldians sterile so they can't breed, where, like, try to end the Eldian race peacefully, which is interesting. I don't like, it's certainly not what I expected, and sort of a weird plan, but I guess it sort of makes sense in a way. But, and of course his backstory, which is where, we got to see things from his perspective. Like, that was just again, incredibly great episode. And in just one episode, we went from seeing this character to where, oh my gosh, this guy's a piece of shit. Like, he turned all of Levi's men into Titans and made him kill them. And just like, and then we see his backstory, and oh my gosh, this guy was just like a normal kid who just wanted to have a normal life. And his parents were complete and fucking dicks who, tried to force him into being the savior of the Eldian race, and like, and oh gosh, that scene where like Grisha was like, yelling while Zeke was in the closet. I watched that scene actually. I watched that scene in the sub version before I watched it in the dub version. Oh my gosh, like that scene in the sub version where he was just screaming while Zeke was in the closet. Oh my gosh, that was like so uncomfortable, and like such a great example of voice acting. Like, even though I usually watch anime dubbed rather than sub, like that scene, like, and man, like, it just is so interesting because Zeke is another character who, it's like, this guy sees himself as like the hero of his own story, and like, with the fact that we've been following all these protagonists throughout the entire story, that we see them as the heroes of the story because, obviously we've been there for them for so much time. But then we see, like, these backstories with these other characters like Zeke and Reiner, where they have their own experiences, like, they have things they believe are right. And, even though other people may see them as devils, they see themselves as their own heroes. And, such incredibly interesting. And speaking of devils, what about Floch, the Devil Worshipper? His turn as a character was very weird, but very interesting as well. Like, I mean, him being this, like, psychopathic, traitor to the government who is, like, taking joy in the fact that, all the military officials had been, poisoned with Zeke's spinal fluid, and like him commanding all the new recruits to like beat up half to death Commandant Shadeth, like, and taking joy in it all. It was very interesting. It's like, here's the thing, it's sort of like the same story with Eren Yeager, where Floch, it's an interesting turn for his character to take, but like, this aspect of his personality was just not really set up in the previous season, where, he was just, he was set up as this coward who, like, basically, I get it, like, he went on that whole spiel about how, he finally understood how, humanity needed a devil to fight back against the enemies, and that's now what he's becoming. And it is interesting to see that part of his character develop and actually have plot relevance, and like be this super Eren Yeager fanboy. Ironic, because he was like chewing out Eren Yeager in the last season, saying how, oh, you're letting your emotions get the better of you, and like, but like, I don't know, it just seems like he's come from this character who was just like very cowardly and very incompetent in the last season to now, like, I guess it has been 4 years, but it's just like, he went from this character who was just like very incompetent in the last season to now all of a sudden he has no fear whatsoever, and like he's just really brutal and merciless, and like just completely going along with like this plan to overthrow the government. And like, it just seems like a very drastic character turn that I don't think was set up as well as it could be. Obviously, it's been 4 years since we last saw him, but like, not showing his character development over that time, I think, is a general disservice, and I don't know. But yeah, I thought his character turn was interesting, and, he's not necessarily a likable character, but he's certainly an interesting character, but I just think his character turn could have been more well built up, in my opinion. Alright, still recording. Alright, so speaking of devils, let's talk about Gabby, shall we? A character that the fan base just has such love and admiration for. I mean, I just don't think there's a single fan of this series who doesn't like her. I mean, she's just so, she's so precious. For real though, fuck them haters. Gabby did nothing wrong. Yeah, I said it. I mean, there's a lot of people. There'd be a lot of people hating on Gabby, like, oh, she's the devil. She's like killer, fucking killer. Like, they should have. Like, there's honestly like compilations on YouTube where like there will be an entire loop of like just a full hour of Gabby getting punched in the face, like where we saw in episode 8. Like, there's an entire there's an entire hour-long loop of that. Like, Gabby is just so fucking despised in this series, and like I get why, but I don't agree with it. And here's why. Because, like, Gabby, she's basically just fucking Eren. You realize that, right? And, like, obviously say, like, oh, no, she's not exactly like Eren. There are differences. And obviously, yeah, there are differences between Eren and her. But, like, in Season 1, Eren was portrayed as this character who's, like, he was just so incredibly narrow-minded, focused, just, completely out of his league, just kill all Titans, I'm gonna do it, just kill, and then, Gabby is basically the same, where she's just this, girl who's basically, I'm gonna do this, I have a goal, I want to be free, I want the Eldians to be free, and I think this is a way to do it, by wiping out all these bad Eldians, and I'm just gonna kill, save the world, yeah, and then, like, she's just, even Armin directly states the parallels in episode 13, of course, where he says, like, you remind me of someone I knew, like, but of course, because like, the parallels are obvious. Like, Gabby is incredibly similar to how Eren used to act, and much like Eren, Gabby is, even though she is obviously a very skilled warrior candidate, she obviously has some major flaws as well, and like she acts very incompetently in a lot of scenes, like, for example, where she, like, brags to Niccolo about, like, murdering her, murdering his, girlfriend or lover or love interest, I guess, whatever their relationship was, like, bragging to him about, like, killing her, like, yeah, I brought her down, and we'll kill all these island devils, like, not being able to read the room at all, like, and her, like, getting her ass kicked a lot, like, on the ship, but, like, But it's, again, like Eren was. Like, Eren was someone who was... He had moments of badassery in Season 1, but then he also had moments of, like, complete just, like, getting his ass handed to him and not being able to handle the situation. And it's exactly the same as Gabby. And I find that so interesting. And I also find Eren... I honestly find Gabby to be a more relatable and interesting character than Eren was in Season 1, because, she is someone who... She is having to deal with the realities of that, things aren't nearly as simple as they seem earlier on than Eren did, and like her, and just geez, that moment where like she has a right to hate Eren, like people be saying like, oh, Eren did nothing wrong, like Gabby did nothing wrong, like people came and attacked her home, and like Eren killed people that she cared about, and Sasha from a rooftop, even though obviously a lot of people love Sasha. I love Sasha because she's such a likable character, but she did kill those 2 guys that were with her that she liked. And, then she went on the airship, and she got her revenge, and she shot and killed Sasha, and, that she was completely and utterly justified in doing that, like, because they did attack, and they attacked first, and killed a lot of people that she cared about. So, I really liked her character in this season. I honestly find her to be one of the best characters introduced this season, if I'm being perfectly honest. And there were a bunch of great scenes with her, like, and it seems like, obviously people are saying, oh, like, she's just such a boring character, like, she isn't changing. But it's clear that she has changed in some ways, because, like, again, it seems like there are moments of realization, like, where Hannes dying was the realization for Eren's character to finally change. And I think, the girl that Sasha saved, like, trying to kill Gabby, and they're just, like, bawling on the floor, and her seeing that was, like, the moment of realization where, Gabby realized that, oh my gosh, like, maybe I was wrong about these people and these supposed island devils, and, like, I have to reconsider some things. You could tell her demeanor was much different, like, she was, like, being completely terrified and not wanting to kill Eren after that, so she's obviously developing as a character, and I just really liked her. I just found her incredibly compelling, and, like, having this character who is completely mirroring Eren, during the first season is just so incredibly interesting. So yeah, I really liked her. The other thing that I would say, Sasha's death was just... It's interesting how important it was in this season. I didn't, like... Sasha's death, obviously she was a character, a big fan favorite that a lot of people liked. The potato girl, she just had a bunch of really hilarious scenes, and, like, she was just very likable. But I don't know if, like... when she died, I was it was obviously very sad, but I didn't foresee her death being like so incredibly important in this season, because it just like Sasha dying, like she has been like she's been sort of a side character. Like she's obviously been supporting, she's been a consistent member of the supporting cast, but she's never been this like super important character. So it's interesting that they gave her death like so much meaning, to where, you know, it had meaning to her family and obviously to Niccolo, and then to like basically an entire plot line based around the ramifications of her death and Gabby killing her, and then them going to meet the family, and then like that whole scene with Niccolo and them and everyone, and him trying to kill them and telling her. It's just very interesting that like how big of an impact Sasha's death had on the series, and how much they focused on it. And I don't know, I feel like I don't know how I feel about it, because I feel like they could have maybe focused on more interesting things than devoting, like, you know, entire multiple episodes to the ramifications of Sasha's death, because like they didn't even really do that with Erwin's character, who his death was just so incredibly climactic and important to the series. But, you know, like, on the other hand, I did find it interesting, just like really showing how much of an impact just one character's death can have, and, you know, on her family and on this girl who she saved, and like all those years ago. And I just really did like that they did actually bring this girl back who Sasha did save, you know, showing that moment did have plot relevancy, and showing it all these years later, and how you know, she basically became her adopted sister, and that was really cool. I like that. But, you know, yeah, Sasha's death turned out to be a lot more important than I originally thought, and I'm not. Maybe they could have possibly focused on more important things, but I don't know, I still did find it very compelling, and just very interesting seeing how that was played out in the end. Then we get to Falco. Falco is a very endearing character. I really liked him. You know, he's a very good foil to Gabby, like, with, you know, Gabby being all the time, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna accomplish my goal, I'm gonna kill all these enemies, and blah blah blah. Whereas Gabby is, no, sorry, Falco is more of like, he's the brains of the duo, really, like, where he, you know, he's just kind of more passive, sort of like Armin, but also just taking time to try to consider things and like think things out, rather than Gabby, who's just like very gung-ho. And I really liked him because, you know, he felt like very understanding and mature for his age, despite being also very naive. And like you know, where, for example, like after Eren decided to attack Eren decided to attack the internment zone, he didn't like immediately go to, oh, you know, fuck this Eren guy, like, we gotta kill him, like, these are our enemies. Like, you know, he was understanding, because he realized that, you know, oh, we attacked these people, like, and killed a lot of their people, like, all those years ago, so this is basically just revenge from them. And, like, you know, he was understanding the whole situation, which I really admired, and I felt was a very interesting character trait of him, especially for a kid so young as him to be understanding of all this stuff. I just really liked him. He was just a very interesting character. I hope they don't kill him off in hope they don't kill him off, because, you know, he has Zeke's spinal fluid inside him, so I'm not really liking his chances very much. But but also, he deserves, like, I've seen people hating on my man Falco, but, like, he is the best fucking babysitter out there. Like, when, in episode 11, when Gabby was just, like, completely unable to, like, completely unable to carry herself when they went to the, Browse household, like, he was just the real MVP. Like, he was an excellent babysitter to Gabby, just, like, you know, constantly, covering her mistakes and trying to, like, you know, and get her to do everything for them to blend in. Like, episode 11, Falco was the MVP of that episode for sure. You know, people saying, oh, he's a simp, like, he likes this idiot girl Gabby. Like, I don't know, it is a little weird that this character who's just like, you know, he pretty much stands as a complete opposite to Gabby, like, believing in a bunch of things that, you know, believing things complete opposite to her, that, like, he has this crush on her. It's a little weird, but, you know, he is a character who's just like, you know, he's just a very endearing character, I would say. Like, I just really like Falco, even though he probably isn't as interesting a character as Gabby is. Anyway, let's talk about Peak. So I love everything about her, and she officially has replaced Historia as the best girl of the series, and I want her to step on me, and oh my gosh, I love, seriously, I love Peak so much. Like, she is such an incredibly good character that was introduced in the series. Like, it's so, like, it's so weird that the like, that weird-ass, like, ugly, card titan from the last season that was just, like, you know, you think, like, oh, this is just a weird random titan that is just there to basically save, Zeke and Rhina from the protagonist, like, and take them back so that there's a main villain to still fight. Like, she was just incredible this season. I absolutely love Peak. Like, you know, she's just like, you know, I don't know, like, she just has, first of all, her voice, especially in the English dub, is just, like, so incredibly calming and soothing, and, like, you know, her entire demeanor is just, like, very, like, soothing. Like, whenever she's on screen, she's just like, she's just very, like, nice and pleasant a lot of the time, while also being, like, a complete fucking badass. Like, she has the, you know, it's obvious she has the weakest titan out of all of them, but she still manages to use that titan in very interesting ways. And, like, of course, oh my gosh, in, like, she's also, of course, very intelligent. Like, there's a lot of scenes where it just shows, like, how incredibly, like, smart Peak is. Like, she's the one who managed to figure out that Zeke was actually a traitor to Marley, and that, you know, he was actually on the side of Paradis. Like, she's the one who figured that out. She's the one who was, like, while Galliard was, like, being really frazzled during the battle, she was the one who was, like, keeping a cool head. And, like, she's just really cool. She's just an incredibly cool character, and she's also very nice and, like, likable. And, you know, she's just someone you would want to hang out with, you know, like, because she's just, and, you know, like, of course, oh my gosh, episode 16, where Peak just rocketed up to, like, incredibly great character status, where, you know, she just came in, like, out of nowhere, kills Eren's subordinate, puts a gun to his head, and then immediately assesses the situation where she knows she can't take Eren, but then, like, tries to manipulate him to think she was on her side, and, like, just, and I love the way, it's just, like, small things to where, like, you know, Peak is, even, like, small things, like, I love the way she, like, treats characters like Gabby, to where, like, you know, like, after, like, it's obviously, like, in the last episode of, this half season, you know, Gabby was just being put through the ringer. Like, she was so confused about everything that was going on, she was, like, nearly having a mental breakdown, and, like, but Peak, like, having these small moments where, like, reassuring Gabby with, like, that smile, and telling her, like, you know, everything was going to be okay, like, she wouldn't betray her comrades, and then, like, she trusts the people she fights alongside, and, like, really, like, these moments of where she's obviously on the battlefield, and trying to fight against, Eren, but at the same time, like, trying to reassure this, young kid who's obviously been, like, through so much that, you know, everything's gonna be great. She's just such an incredibly, like, in addition to being very badass and very, very, like, competent and smart, like, she's also just very, she's just really sweet and very, very likable, and I just really, I just really like Peak in this season. Like, she was just an incredibly great new addition to the cast. I just really liked her. Like, every single second she was on screen, she just stole the show, and I just really liked her. She has become the best girl. She has officially usurped Historia, because Historia has barely had any plot relevance for the past 2 arcs. But anyway, yeah, just really like Peak. She was an incredible character. Just really liked her. Yeah, don't know how much I'm going to say. I really liked her. But anyway, let's talk about the big D, by which I, of course, mean death. Something that I'm sure we've all come to expect from the series by now. There were, in this season, you know, one of the things that I find interesting about Attack on Titan, and the way people talk about it is, you know, people talk about Attack on Titan as if it's a show where, oh, you know, any main character can die at any time, and you know, that's, for a lot of Attack on Titan, that's really not been true. Like, you know, the main cast of the series for the first 2 seasons were honestly pretty safe. Like, you know, there was this fake out moment where, of course, in episode 5, where we think that, oh my gosh, they killed off the main character episode in the 5th episode, and they killed off the main character Eren in the 5th episode. Sorry, I misspoke. And like, but of course he was fine, and you know, none of the really major characters ended up dying. The main group, Eren, Mikasa, Armin, they were all safe. Like Hanji, Levi, and Erwin, they all ended up making out okay. Really, the major characters have all been pretty much surviving by the first 2 seasons and getting through okay. But then, of course, well, with the exception of Marco, of course, rest in peace, Marco, you deserve better. Then, of course, with season 3, part 2, that was where the stakes really started getting up, with like a lot of characters dying. A main one, Irvin Smith, getting killed, and Marlowe, his death as well, and that was incredibly sad. Moblit as well, he died. And then, and with this season is also continues to keep the heightened stakes where there are more major character, supporting character deaths than there have been in like the first 2 seasons, where, a lot of surprises as well. Like, for example, like the death of Sophia and Udo. Like, I thought they were going to go more places with their characters, to where I guess they didn't get a ton of screen time and development, but they were still part of this main group of 4 warrior candidates, along with Falco and Gabby, and they just like died. Sophia got crushed by rubble, and Udo, man, that was brutal death. Like, he just got trampled by the crowd and his head got smashed. That was just, oh geez. And like, of course, Sasha's death, that was incredibly heartbreaking. Finally, yet another member of the main human squad, she got killed. Now it's just a matter of what will happen to Jean and what's his face, Connie as well. And of course Zachary's death, that was just very surprising. There was a lot of really surprising deaths in this season. Speaking of which, I don't know what happened with Levi, but like he got exploded by that that thunder spirit. He's not dead. He's definitely not fucking dead, but for the first time, he might be like seriously critically injured, and that just gets me a bit worried. But anyway, but yeah, there were some, and disregarding like major character deaths, like there were honestly some pretty brutal ways to go out in the season. Like, that scene where there was just a bunch of rubble, like Eren, where Eren came in, there was just a bunch of rubble. Like, there was this guy who was just not kind of drunk and not really going was on, and then just a piece of rubble just came in and smashed him. Like, Eren, like, brutally killing all those Marley officials by just punching the shit out of him. That was hilarious, honestly. And of course, the Warhammer Titan, a big surprise. She actually got eaten by Eren like 2 episodes after being introduced. So that was definitely surprising. I didn't expect that. And there were just a lot of really brutal scenes in this season, perhaps more brutal than what we've been getting lately. Like, I feel like some of the scenes in season 3 were maybe toned down a bit in their gore, but there's probably more gore in this season than in the last season, which I do enjoy. But yeah, there were definitely some deaths in this season. They hit hard and could be pretty surprising sometimes. And oh my gosh, like the Warhammer Titan's death, that was just fucking brutal. Like making Galliard crush her, and then Eren eating her fluids. Like, oh my gosh, that was just, that scene was fucked up, man. Now, anyway, let's talk about some side characters. So we got a bunch of side characters that are important. I'll just go through them. Willie Tybur, I found him to be a very interesting character. His speech, of course, was obviously legendary, completely iconic moment. I was a bit confused by his motivations. Like, I get what he was trying to do, where he was trying to unite the world against, like, the island of Paradis. But, like, I was also a bit confused because, like, he was saying that, the people on that island, they're not really, like, devils. They're just people who were brainwashed by the king. And, the king only wanted peace. But then he was talking about, like, let's fight all these devils and let's wipe them out to make sure the world is safe. So basically what he was saying was, these people haven't done anything wrong, but let's just kill them anyway, I guess. Like, I was a bit confused with that. I was also a bit confused by what he actually wants for the Eldian race. Like, he seemed to have some major, like, self-hate in him, like, to where, he was an Eldian, obviously, but, he also kind of hated his race, and I was kind of confused to, like, what he was trying to do, and was he, like, was he trying to make it so that the aliens outside of Parody were, treated better? And like, I don't know, I was just a bit confused by what his real motivations were and what he thought about the alien race, and a bit confusing. General Magath, he was a very interesting character. Like, he was introduced as this just racist piece of shit, like sending aliens to their death, but then of course you realize that he's more complex than that. He was doing all these things because it was expected of him in the military. And now that and he was you could tell he's not like this, just he is kind of an asshole, and like he is somewhat racist, but he also like does have he's definitely more complex than he seems. And with him now leading the Marleyan forces against Parody, I'm interested to see how his character developments and how important he is. So, and of course, those were new characters introduced, but we also got our crew back at Parody. We got, of course, Jean. He's just being his normal horse-faced self. I don't really have that much to say about him, except that, he is still struggling with, just like he always has been, he's struggling with trying to be a leader and trying to do all these really hard decisions of, like, sacrificing people for the greater good, and also just, like, doing some really fucked up things, like how he was, hesitated when pointing that Thunder Spear at Falco. And just, Connie, he had some good scenes, like, for example, his relationship with Sasha. I honestly was kind of shipping him with Sasha. I would have liked if there was some more of a romantic connection between the two, but I guess it was fine with them just being platonic, with Niccolo being introduced as her love interest post-mortem, by the way, which is a thing. But yeah, Connie, he's probably been the least developed of the major supporting characters, to where, I don't know, I feel like I don't know, it just felt weird to me that, like, there was basically almost no recognition that, like, the man who, like, slaughtered his entire village, like Zeke Yeager, that he just had no moment where he just went up to Zeke Yeager and said, "Hey, you bastard, like, you killed all my family members in my village." Like, there should have been a moment like that for Connie. But, like, overall, the scenes he did have, like, with Niccolo, where he was looking over Sasha's grave and stuff like that was touching. And, like, that hilarious scene where he was talking about Sasha, like, "I'm an idiot? What? You're, like, the biggest idiot of all of you." That was hilarious and really endearing. Hanji is an interesting case. Like, I don't know, Hanji definitely has changed a lot, to where, she used to be, like, this crazy bitch, like, going in, like, like, oh my gosh, these Titans, I love them, I want to fuck them so hard, like, like, just this crazy individual who's just so incredibly entertaining. And, like, I used to really like Hanji, but, like, I don't know, in this season, like, she had some pretty crazy moments, but, like, I felt like her character was much more subdued than she used to be. And, like, I get the fact that she's, like, under pressure, like, all the time, because, she's been put as regiment commander, and she has to deal with all this fucking bullshit all the time. But I don't know, I feel like there should have been more crazy Hanji scenes. She just seemed too stoic for me in this season. Like, yeah, just... and I feel like she didn't quite do as much. Like, Hanji has never been an unimportant character, but, like, I feel like she just didn't really have that much to do in this season. I didn't like that. Levi, of course, Levi still being the Beyblade master, having some really great scenes, like, where Levi's a very interesting character, because he's just not really, he doesn't have really, Levi doesn't have these grand ambitions like a lot of the other characters do. Like, he's just in it to kind of, survive and take orders and do this shit. And, like, he's just, part of it that is amazing about Levi's character, and why I think a lot of people like him, is just, he doesn't, like, he doesn't really, like, put up with bullshit. He just, like, gets his job done and does it, and, like, doesn't really complain. And, like, the scene where, he's going to kill his comrades, like, he just, he doesn't think about it. He just, he does it because that's what he does. He's Levi, and he gets the job done. And, like, that was just incredibly great moment for his character. Commander Pixis, of course, he, as I said before, I'm loving the fact that he is getting a bigger role to play in the season after Commander Ervin's death, because I've always loved Pixis, ever since he first gave that speech atop the wall, where he was just telling people to lay down their lives and die. He was the original suicide charge speech, although Ervin's speech was just utterly legendary, and he's still my favorite character of the series, even though he's dead. And but yeah, Pixis, loved him, loved his involvement in the season. Porco, he was Galliard. He was an interesting character, I guess. Was introduced in the season. I felt like his connection to Marcel was interesting in his interactions with Reiner, but he didn't get that much focus, and I don't like. I don't know. He wasn't that likable, and wasn't that interesting. Like, he didn't have too many badass scenes. Like, Peak, she was just like an incredibly likable character who was just, I loved every moment she was on screen. Galliard, like, he was okay. Honestly, he didn't have a ton to do, honestly, and he had really cool fight scenes, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, just didn't care for his character too much. Yeah, but yeah, overall, I just going through some miscellaneous characters, what I thought, oh my gosh, wait, I just realized I gave Flock a section of his own, and I put Levi in the side characters section. Oh, the Levi fans are gonna crucify me. Oh my god, oh gosh, I'm dead. They're gonna kill me. On with the discussion. One of the things that I love about Attack on Titan that this series thankfully continues is, like, this mystery aspect where, how the show continually just keeps you guessing as to what's actually going on. And what's so great about this, it in this season is that, whereas before we were constantly trying to figure out what the villains were and what they were trying to do this whole time, in the show just, in this season, the show actually kept us in the dark about our protagonist and what they were doing. Because, like, it's so interesting because, like, when we're first introduced to the season, like, we're introduced to, Reiner and all the characters in the internment zone and their stories and how, it's so mysterious, too, because, like, like the scene in episode 2 which was a really cool scene where, Zeke was basically being told about how, all the ships that have gone to Parity haven't returned. And, like, you're questioning, oh my gosh, like, what have our main characters been doing? How are they taking down those ships? And you're wondering what the main characters have been doing. And it's really interesting because you're, like, left in the dark in that. And just such an interesting shift in perspective that I really like. And, like, you would think that after the big basement twist in Season 3, they revealed all the secrets of the world, the rest of the story would just be relatively straightforward. But no, there are still quite a few twists that aren't, the twists in this season, or this half season, aren't necessarily basement reveal level or anything, but a lot of them were still pretty shocking, like Zeke being a traitor to... basically anything with Zeke, like, his character just threw a ton of surprises at us, and, of course, the twist that Eren was actually going off his own, and it wasn't, everyone else's plan to go to, Parity, and he basically forced everyone to go there and attack. That was a really interesting twist, and it was just a lot of interesting things and shifts in perspective, and we constantly, even after, like, the secrets of the world have been revealed, it's nice that there are still mysteries, and there are still, like, questions as to, what's going on, and it's just, I really like it, because that's been a main part of this series throughout the entire show, this just mystery aspect and trying to figure out what's going on. And I like that they didn't just drop it in this half season, still made it to where, we're still trying to figure out what's going on. It's just really cool. The moral lines in this show have just been blurred as fuck, and I absolutely love it. There really is no real villain anymore. And I just love how morally complex this series has become. And, there were already a lot of, like, shady stuff going on, like, with how, basically in the first season, it kind of had these fascist overtones where, like, people were basically told to lay down your lives and die, so that other people can live, like, and, like, sending all those people out to face the Titans and basically die so that there would be less food shortages. Like, there were some really fucked up morally things that were done, like with Commander Erwin and Levi deciding to sacrifice all those soldiers just so they could capture the female Titan. Like, there were a lot of morally fucked up things that were done in this series before, but, like, this just, the level of moral ambiguity now is just, like, incredible, where, there really is no real villain. There's heroes on both sides, like, and a lot of the characters, I liked how a lot of characters who, for the series, up to this point have been, like, dead set, they're these characters who we've been following throughout this entire series. Like we have to grapple with the fact that even though they're the protagonists that we've been following throughout this entire series, they're not the only protagonists. And like there's these other characters on the other side of the sea who have all these differing motivations, and like even differing motivations within the groups. Like you have people like Commander Magath and Willie Tybur and different characters within Marley and within the Eldian Internment Zone who have all these different goals, and like it's just so amazing to me how like this series manages to still grapple with all these different characters who have all these different goals, even within the different sides. Like there's characters with different goals, like people like Eren and his group, the Jaegerists, who are trying to do things a certain way, and the military police, who obviously want to do things a different way, and Zeke, who has his own plan, and he thinks Eren is on board with his plan, but I still don't think that Eren is going to do that sterilization plan. I think he's going to try to start the rumbling and fucking kill everyone. Just saying. But yeah, one of the things I don't know if I liked about this. Basically, one of the things I don't know if I liked a ton about this season was how a lot of the characters who, for the series up to this point, have been kind of, dead set on fighting as hard as they can for survival at any cost. Like, I mentioned Armin before, and Mikasa as well, and a lot of the other characters. They're now more willing to desire peace with their enemy. I mean, I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, of course you have the Jaegerists who want to destroy their enemy at any cost. Like, it's interesting to have that in aspect, like, people who are following Eren's ideals, but I feel like having a lot of the characters, like John, Mikasa, Connie, Armin, not even want to fight against Marley, it puts a lot of the blame exclusively on Eren, and makes it seem like the other characters don't have as much agency in fighting this war. And that's one of the things I don't know if I liked about the season, which is that, a lot of the characters, some of the characters, like, Armin, Mikasa, Hanji, as I mentioned before, they don't feel like they have quite as much agency as they did before, because, like, this series, it has been very good at, like, giving each, especially in Season 3, it's been very good at giving each character a purpose in the fight. Like, it's just, that's one aspect that the series has been very good in doing at the past, and I feel like it just kind of dropped the ball a bit in this season in how it handled that, and I don't really know if I liked it that much. But, yeah, so, but even still, I still do like that the moral, the lines in this series, just all the lines they cross and all the horrible things they do, and, like, seeing what lengths that Eren and their crew went to, and, like, killing civilians and all that stuff, that was just really fucked up and brutal, and, seeing them become the oppressor, where they used to be the oppressed, and just seeing, it's just, this series has just evolved and changed so much, and I just really love how complex, morally ambiguous it has become. I just really love it. But anyway, overall, for the half season as a whole, I would have to say that I thought the first half was better than the second half. I just found it to be more compelling, because, we were seeing this entirely different world that we haven't seen as much of before, seeing all the complex political structures. But when the back half, when we went back to parody, I found it interesting. I just didn't find it quite as interesting as the stuff that was going on in the rest of the world in the Eldian Internment Zone. And as for my standout episodes, my 4 favorite from the season would probably have to be, of course, Episode 1, Episode 5, Declaration of War, Episode 7, which was, that amazing fight scene that ended off the nearly ended off the the battle in Marley in the Eldian Internment Zone. And of course, Episode 15, which was the Zeke flashback, which was just a fantastic episode. I did want to talk, before I end this review, because it's getting long and I'm just going to end this pretty soon, but I did want to talk about the pacing for a bit. I honestly thought this season, particularly, as I said before, in the first half, was rushed. While I haven't read the manga past the Return to Shiganshina arc yet, I do watch manga versus anime comparison videos, and there were just a lot of cuts that were made in this half season that I didn't really appreciate. Overall, especially in the beginning, it felt like this anime was just trying to bring the... It felt like the anime was trying to finish the quote-unquote boring stuff as quickly as possible so it could get to the Declaration of War and everything that came out after it. But, I found the focus on the Internment Zone and Reiner's character hella interesting, and I wish it had just been taken slower and fleshed out more. Like, it's okay to take time to, to take time and have breathing between, you know, just action scenes. And I feel like there could have been at least 2 more episodes before the Declaration of War episode really came around. And I feel like they rushed through it. And I just, like, it's okay for the story to kind of slow down for moments and kind of focus on build-up and character building and setting things up. And I feel like that's something that the Attack on Titan anime has struggled with in the past. Like, for example, I mentioned the World Government arc, where basically in the manga, it was much more slower paced and gave more time to set up the plot and the conflict and, you know, the reactions of the citizens and all that stuff, whereas in the anime, they really shortened it and really, you know, reworked it to where it was more action-packed and, like, exciting from the beginning, which I didn't really appreciate in that arc, and I didn't, even though they didn't really reposition a lot of stuff, I didn't really appreciate in the Marley arc how they really kind of sped through a lot of stuff and didn't give it as much breathing room. I didn't appreciate that, I will say. But, you know, particularly episode 3, I think, like, you know, Reiner's backstory, I did like that episode a lot, but it's just, like, it could have been stretched out in 2 episodes, I think, probably, and, like, you know, throughout it, I was just kind of confused as to what was going on, you know, as it just, like, kept cutting out stuff that could have been, used to tie the story together. It's just, like, you know, I don't know, I feel like Reiner's backstory could have, gone into detail more. Of the stuff it did show was still interesting, but it just felt rushed. A lot of the first half of the season did feel rushed, in my opinion, even though, because it was the most interesting part of season 4 for me, the first half was, and I just feel like I didn't want them to rush through it as much as they did. But anyway, the pacing did get better in the back half of the season, but for me, as I said before, I found the stuff in the Marley arc to be more interesting than the content that was adapted for the back half of the season. Anyway, so that's pretty much it for my discussion. I am sincerely hoping that the second half of the season exceeds all my expectations. I mean, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for sure, but I have heard some not so great things about the ending, like from people who have read the manga. You know, I've heard some things that might be concerning about the ending. I mean, you know, I don't know if Mappa will change the ending or what, but, you know, the extra time after the manga's already ended should give some time to workshop any problems that might be in it. I mean, I've just been kind of concerned at, like, how many people say, oh, the ending is just complete garbage. Like, there are some people who like it, but they seem to be in the minority, and it is concerning to me. But, you know, like, however this series ends, like, you know, if the ending does end up to be, you know, complete and utter garbage, just shit, like, you know, ending a series is incredibly difficult, and I will say with Attack on Titan, it has been one incredible ride, and I've enjoyed it so much to this point. I've enjoyed watching it, you know, grow and change and, like, develop so much, and all the mysteries that have been revealed, and, like, the incredible action and the characters and just everything that has been set up to this point have just been so good, even if the ending is complete shit, and even if the, you know, Season 4 Part 2 is just all of it's complete shit, which I don't expect it will, but I think there will be some very interesting things, even if the ending might not be so great. I still love this series, absolutely, and I'm just so thankful for Isayama for birthing his beautiful brainchild that has been Attack on Titan, and Wit Studio adapting it, giving it such a great adaptation in animated form, and Mappa picking it up, which I don't think they did quite as good a job as Wit, but it was still competent, and I still enjoyed it, and I still did enjoy this Season 4 Part 1 quite a bit, and I would have to give it a... I don't like it, definitely not as much as Season 3 Part 2, that was just incredible. I don't know if the series will ever reach the same heights as that again, but I still did enjoy this a lot, and I just liked it. It was a very good half season, and anyway, that was it. This has been my review. This has been the Aromantic Shipper, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.